What is up, YouTube? Break MMA bringing to you UFC Fight Night Nashville. Derrick Lewis versus Taliesin Teixeira. Welcome and welcome back to the channel. I'm going to be giving my predictions on this upcoming UFC Fight Night that is tomorrow. Now, before we get into that, I do want to rant real quick, just real quick, guys. Dreams come true, okay? I know y'all have heard me saying I've been in class for the longest, and I have been, and I have a lot of difficulty in school. I'm in college currently, and I've dropped out. No, sorry, I haven't dropped out, but I've failed my classes. That's what I meant to say. I failed my classes a couple of times, and I've taken them over and over. And you know, I'm doing STEM courses, so obviously y'all can see how difficult those can be. And I was taking chemistry 2 over the summer, and long story short, I passed. I was locked in, man. And like during the final, which was this week, actually yesterday. So I didn't have a lot of time to record this week because I had to put that first. And yeah, I just wanted to share that with y'all, man. Yeah. But let's get started with the card. I'm gonna start with the first fight of the night. Oh, sorry. We're gonna be starting off with Fatima Klein versus Melissa Martinez. I'm gonna go with Fatima Klein. She has some more solid performances in the UFC, in my opinion. There isn't really much for me to say about this fight, to be honest. So I'm just going to go with Fatima Klein. Next up on the card, we have Mitch Ramirez versus Mike Davis. I'm going to go with Mike Davis. Mitch Ramirez has been in the UFC for only about 2 fights. I think he's lost both. And Mike Davis is one of the upper echelon of the lightweight unranked. He's part of the lightweight unranked gauntlet. If you get past Mike Davis, you get to get a ranked opportunity. However, Mitch Ramirez is essentially just a tune-up fight for Mike Davis. He's 0-2 in the UFC, like I said, and Mike Davis is coming off a loss to Fares Ziam, and he sustained a decent amount of injury. He said he was injured coming into the fight, I think, and he didn't really perform to how he usually does. So I'm gonna go with Mike Davis for this one. I believe he's gonna get it done in 2 rounds. I think he's gonna get a finish. You know what? I was actually really surprised to see his jiu-jitsu versus Fares Ziam. So I'm gonna bet on it. I'm not gonna bet on it, but I would be hoping for him to get a submission win instead of a knockout win, because that's what we've usually seen for him. And the next up on the card, we have Kennedy Enzen versus Walter Walker. Now this is kind of an underrated fight. I'm not gonna lie. These are 2 solidly skilled heavyweights, which is very rare to say. Kennedy Nzechukwu is a very massive heavyweight, as we all know. He came up from light heavyweight. He's done very well in his performances. He showed that anybody that moves up from light heavyweight can actually do it as a heavyweight. And yeah, I mean, what we know about Kennedy is he's very massive. He has a lot of reach. He usually likes to keep it on the feet, stand-up game. That's where he likes it. Walter Walker, I would say, is probably a bit more well-rounded. He's more known to take the fight to the ground and being able to maintain his own respect and the stand-up. I kind of want to go. I was looking at this card a couple of days ago because I was thinking, what am I gonna say for this video? And I was kind of thinking Kennedy and Nzechukwu, definitely gonna get it done. But I would say, like, in terms of heavyweight wins, what's more impressive? A heavyweight beating Chris Barnett that came off a 2-year ACL tear injury and popped his and got injured in the fight, leaving him vulnerable, unable to defend himself, or a heavyweight that submitted another heavyweight with a heel hook. I think a heavyweight grappling at all is super impressive. So I kind of want. I don't know if he's the underdog here because it doesn't tell me the odds, but I kind of want to go with Walter Walker. I don't know. If he's the underdog, guys, I would say bet on him. To be honest, I would say put a side bet. Like, that's solid money. If that's plus 150, that's solid money, man. I'd put 10 on that, not gonna lie. If I had 10 for it. But you know what? That's kind of disrespectful having this fight under this next one. But moving on to the next fight, we got Lauren Murphy versus Eduardo Mora. Now, I didn't want to mention, I kind of have a problem with all these stud WMA fighters having their nicknames based off of Ronda Rousey. I get it. She was the Connor for WMMA. But guys, come on. We have to evolve past this. You know, not like every Irish guy isn't going to call himself the Notorious. You know what I'm saying? It's just like we got to move past that, okay? And this is more popular in like foreign places too. And I guess I can get that cuz that's more like that's how you, I guess, start to accustom to like a different culture or whatever, but regardless, I'm going to go with Eduardo Mora, sorry. She's just so much younger than Lauren Murphy. Lauren Murphy is the oldest 39-year-old I've ever seen, and she hasn't fought in years. So Eduardo Mora has had a good win in the UFC, and she's 2-1. She's only lost to Denise Gomez, who we all know is actually very solid. So I'm gonna go with Eduardo Mora, in under 2 rounds, for sure. I think she's definitely gonna get the finish over Lauren Murphy. And then moving up further on the card, Jake Matthews versus Chitty Njokwani. This one is also a very solid fight between two very solid fighters. Jake Matthews is definitely the more likely to mix it up, and that's kind of what I'm edging towards more toward him. I like Chitty. I think he's solid. He has a lot of range. He has good heavy hands. He has good power. Solid striking. He has a win recently over Eliansky Dos Santos, who is one of the more solid welterweights. But he's a little on the older side. But beating somebody of his caliber is always impressive and is always a real feat. It's not really like a fraud thing. But you know, Jake Matthews is also a solid fighter in the UFC. He's been on a 3-fight win streak, I believe. I know Chitty's on a 3-fight win streak. I think Jake is also on a 3-fight win streak. Or he's had like wins and losses throughout his career. And you know, if I was thinking like in the stand-up, I'd probably just go Chitty straight up. And then I'm thinking, well, how well, like Chitty has solid takedown defense, but how well is Chitty gonna do with Jake Matthews mixing up for 3 rounds? I think that's gonna slow down his striking output like it always does versus anybody, right? And these kind of, I guess, quote unquote grappler versus striker scenarios. You know, like I said, I just think the capability of Jake Matthews to mix it up is going to give Chitty some trouble, because Chitty doesn't shoot takedowns. He's a stand-up only guy, and he's one of those where he's only going to sprawl. He's only going to defend himself in the grappling. He's not going to necessarily do anything much offensively. So, you know, I think Jake is probably the underdog here. Actually, no, because Chitty's older, but he's coming off a better streak. Who's probably the dog here? Maybe Chitty's the dog. But I like Chitty, but I think I'm going to have to go with Jake Matthews. I think I just trust him more. Like, he just has more tools. And obviously in the game of mixed martial arts, being able to mix it up, knowing and using the different martial arts is always going to win you more fights. So I'm going to go with Jake Matthews. And I probably think this fight is going to go to decision, though. It's going to be a hard-fought 3 rounds, though, I believe. And then, headlining the prelims, we have Max Griffin versus Chris Curtis. I'm going to go with my guy, Chris Curtis. Guys, I love Chris Curtis. I'm a big fan of him. I don't know. He's just such a... Well, he's pretty chill for the most part. I know he can be a little whiny. He can be a little bit of a crybaby in certain aspects. He likes to complain a lot. He's just a little sensitive, guys. You know, like being friends with Sean Strickland for so long, I'm pretty sure is gonna have that effect on you. Where like you learn to not let things get under your skin, and then at some point you get too fed up, and then things start to get under your skin now. You know, Chris Curtis is definitely still one of the upper echelon of welterweight. And I believe Max Griffin, I didn't actually check. Max Griffin's last fight was a loss to Michael Chiesa, and that was a round 3 submission. He fought Jeremiah Wells, won that by split decision, went to decision with Michael Morales. Now, these are solid fighters, right? I'm not going to go this far, actually. I'm not going to go that far. But, you know, obviously, I think when we see his losses here, he's lost to everybody recently in recent time that's been on the cusp of just welterweight rankings. And, oh, wow. Wait, I'm realizing Chris Curtis is coming down now for middleweight, actually. So that's actually interesting because he hasn't dropped to welterweight in a long time, right? You know, hopefully he has a good cut. Hopefully he isn't too drained. He's been a welterweight before, but he also said that he's had, like, it was kind of hard for him, or like he didn't want to make the cut anymore, or he was getting too big, something like that. Because, you know, obviously if you move up weight class, you're having difficulty with the cut. But maybe he's older in his career. He realizes the most opportunity for success he's going to have is probably in a lower weight division, where he can probably be the weight bully. Chris Curtis has great takedown defense. He has very solid striking. He's a good counter striker. But his problem is engagement. So I don't know how interesting this fight could actually be. But I do know that Chris Curtis is most likely going to win this fight. So I'm going to go with Chris Curtis. I cannot tell you if it's going to be by KO or if it's going to be by decision. I probably think it's going to go to a decision, though. And now, starting the main card, Junior Topa versus Tucos. I'm kind of in between on this one. Because on one hand, I think Junior Topa definitely has the power to knock out Tucos, and we're talking about in terms of skill, he has solid base of boxing. Oh no, he has a solid kickboxing base, but that's about it. You know, it's nothing super impressive all around. I think maybe Tucos would be able to mix it up a lot better, and we all know that the Topa brothers aren't that great at grappling defense or offense or grappling at all. So Topa is going to be struggling with that aspect from Tucos. And, you know, if Tucos, I think I'm going to keep saying Tucos. If Tucos doesn't bring any grappling to this fight, he is actually fucking stupid. He had a good fight versus Navajo Sterling, kind of giving him some trouble. And I think if he has improved, or if he comes in with any solid sort of a game plan, I kind of want to go Tucos. And this isn't like Junior Topa hate. I think he's cool. I think he's entertaining as a fighter because he's always coming to brawl. But that doesn't always mean he's going to win. Obviously, I know if he lands good enough shots, he can get the KO win over Tucos. But, man, I kind of want to just go Tucos. I know he's probably the underdog in this one, too. So, I kind of want to go for the underdog. And then moving up, we have Vitor Petrino versus Austin Lane. I'm going to have to go with Vitor Petrino. He has solid grappling. He's not scared to initiate a grappling sequence. He has a lot of power. He is coming off a knockout from Dustin Jacoby. But, you know, that was an insane shot that he took, to be honest. That probably could have put out a couple other light heavyweights on the roster or in the top 15. So, like, if Dustin Jacoby fought Dominic Reyes like that, he probably would have got. Or if he hit Dominic Reyes with that, he probably would have went down too. I like Austin Lane. he seems to be a very cool guy, but he doesn't have a chin. And overall, like he just kind of isn't that good, It sucks because it's like you want these nice guys to win, have success in their careers, but at some point, being nice only gets you so far. And in the UFC, if you're not good enough to win at all, you're not gonna be here very long. So I am gonna go with Vitor Patino. I think he can win this fight very early on. I'm gonna be very sad to watch it though. I don't like. I've seen Austin Lane get knocked out a couple of times, and him coming back and him staying resilient it's always good to see, and it makes you want to root for him. But I think this is one of those uphill battles for Austin Lane. This is one of those steep uphill battles. I'm gonna go with Vitor Patino, probably by a KO in the first round. And then moving up to the featured bout, Nate the Train Landwehr versus Morgan the Pirate Sharier. I'm going to go with Morgan the Pirate Sharier. Nate Landwehr is good. He's entertaining. He brings a lot of pace, good grappling. But he's kind of getting to that Darren Elkins kind of fighter stereotype, where they're always gonna fight entertainingly and such, but picking them to win in this day and age isn't ever gonna do you any favors, right? Morgan the Pirate, he's kind of had some up and down in featherweight recently, but he is still the younger generation and he still has a lot of room to improve. Nate the Train doesn't really have a lot of room to grow anymore. He's past his prime 100%. He takes a lot of damage. Yeah, this is also one of those uphill battles. I think this is a good test for Morgan though. I'm unsure if he just lost his last fight. Yeah, he did lose his last fight versus Nathaniel Wood, but he's only lost to guys that are actually very decent. He's lost to like top 25 featherweights. He's lost to Chepe, who's very good, and he lost to Nathaniel Wood, who's solid. So these aren't like bad losses for me to like go off of, and I think both of them were by decision. I think in this fight Morgan has a better chance of finishing Nate the Train than Nate the Train has of finishing Morgan. Of course, in UFC and MMA, anything can happen. Nate the Train grabs up a submission from any small little gap that Morgan leaves, it can be over in the fight. But I'm gonna go with Morgan, and I'm probably gonna go with a round 2 submission. Maybe in the later rounds, or maybe just Morgan kind of just goes in there and grapple fucks Nate's. I don't know. I have no intel that Morgan's gonna grapple fuck, but that's just kind of what I'm trusting in my gut right now. And then I was so wrong about that. The actual featured bout is Calvin Kattar versus Steve Garcia. Steve Garcia is on a 5-fight win streak. Right? And all of them being by finish. God, bro, these are very good wins. Chase Hooper, very good win. This is aging greatly. Versus Melky Costa, aging greatly. I don't think this is the same choice, so I'm not going to be racist. And a win over Nelson is also very good. I'm going to have to go with Steve Garcia. I do really like the momentum that he's having. He seemed to have figured it out. You don't go on a 5-fight finishing streak without seeing significant improvement, Or maybe it's just like the mental change. I don't know. But whatever he's doing, it's working now. And Calvin Kattar is just on the downhill of his career. That's just where the trajectory of his career is going. Losing to Arnold Allen, but that was a couple years ago, so maybe we can't really go off that. But he came back, lost to Sterling, not a bad loss. Lost to Zalal, not a bad loss either. But these do kind of take a mental toll. So they're both in very different spots in their career. Calvin Kedar is probably thinking, if I don't win now, I'm going to get cut, which makes him maybe a little bit more dangerous. But Steve Garcia is kind of looking at Calvin Kedar as just food. Like, this is his opportunity to chase his dream. So I'm really going to go with Steve Garcia. I don't know if he's going to get the finish, though, because Calvin Kedar is pretty durable, and he is pretty smart with how he fights most of the time. So I'm going to go with Steve Garcia. I do really like Steve Garcia, and I'm hoping that he can continue his run. And, maybe he can shake up the featherweight division a little bit, right? And now for the co-main of the fight. Of the card, sorry. Steven Wonderboy Thompson versus Gabriel Bonfiglio. I'm going to go with Wonderboy. He lost his last fight to Buckley. But, if you actually watch the fight, you can see that Wonderboy was winning up until the KO. Or, you know what? It was still very competitive against who is now a top 10 welterweight in Joaquin Buckley. And I don't know if I trust Gabriel Bonfiglio currently to be the one to give Wonderboy problems with any grappling. Or, Wonderboy in the striking is one of the most untouched fighters ever. Like, it's kind of like you kind of just have to put that as an asterisk on his resume. Like, nobody wants to strike Wonderboy. We've seen Kevin Holland, who had great opportunity, or he had a great tools to be able to give Wonderboy some struggle on the feet. He fell to it. He fell to Wonderboy. Joaquin Buckley having to mix in grappling because he knew he wasn't going to get it done in the striking. Who else has Wonderboy fought recently? I have to look at this. Shavkat had to take it to the ground too, and he was having some struggle on the feet. Bilal, same thing. Gilbert Burns, same thing. Guys, I'm going with Wonderboy. I don't think he hasn't necessarily shown his age in any of his fights. He seems to be kind of immortal, right? Gabriel Bonfiglio is a very talented fighter, I would say. He has good wins. These are some good wins right here. But I don't know. I just don't feel like I can trust him right now. I'm going with Wonderboy. And that's probably by decision, though. I don't think he's going to finish Bonfiglio. And now for the main event, guys. What did I tell you in the beginning of this video? Dreams come true. My dream for tomorrow night is to see Derrick Lewis get a win. Guys, I like Taliesin Teixeira. I have nothing against him. But I like Derrick Lewis more. I think he's so funny. I think he's super entertaining. And he's one of those guys that the UFC need to have all the time. And, Taliesin Teixeira is the next gen. And probably I should be hoping for him to win and such and such and such. And you know what? I probably can say, though, that it's probably an uphill battle. He's 6'7". No meme intended. All right, 6'7". But I feel like I can't say too much. Like, he's very inexperienced, I guess, to say. Let's look at the significant strikes. Oh shit. 14 strikes landed per minute. Oh shit. But this is also a really bad number. I don't know. This is one of those, like, any one of them touch each other, it could be the end of the fight. But that also leaves room for it to be just like Derrick Lewis versus Francis Ngannou. Right? Shit, bro. I'm gonna go with Derrick Lewis still. I don't know. I just have a feeling in my gut that Derrick Lewis isn't gonna lose this fight, and I really hope that he doesn't lose this fight badly either. I really wish I could give like a better in-depth analysis of what I think is gonna go on in the fight. But we both know what's gonna happen. Taliesin, like, they're just gonna keep it on the feet. And you know what? Now that I think about it more, they probably are gonna be a little bit inactive. I don't want to see Derrick Lewis on the back foot though. I would like him to be the main aggressor. I think that would be his best path to victory. Putting the pressure on Taliesin Teixeira, like, I feel like a big guy like him isn't going to be super comfortable being the one being walked down. And what else? And I think Derrick Lewis, as insane as it might be to say, probably might have the better cardio out of the two here. He has gone 3 rounds multiple times. I know this is 5-round main event. You know, Derrick Lewis has also gone 5 rounds, I believe. 5 full rounds. Do I expect this fight to go the full 5 rounds? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think this card is actually pretty solid. I think this is, I wouldn't say stacked, but it's a very solid card all around. So I do want to see Derrick Lewis on the main foot. I mean, on the being the aggressor. Sorry, in this fight, I don't think he should throw anything stupid though, like he did like versus De Lima. A flying knee isn't gonna work against somebody that's 6'7", standing over you, towering over you. And you know, Derrick Lewis has kind of experience fighting these taller fighters like an Alexander Volkov, who used his kicks very well, maintaining the reach, and then he came out guns blazing and getting the finish that he needed. So you know what, that just kind of gave me a confidence boost. And it might be not the same, and it might not be the same Derrick Lewis from way back when, but this is still a very solid version of a Derrick Lewis. So I'm gonna go with Derrick Lewis by KO in the 2nd or 3rd round. I think Taliesin Teixeira is going to slow down a bit as we go into the rounds, more than Derrick Lewis will, because he is more experienced, and I think that would be the difference maker in this fight. So I'm going with Derrick Lewis. That's the video, y'all. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know how y'all day doing in the comments below, or let me know any thoughts you guys have, and I'll see y'all next time.